California recall election notices that are being mailed out this week. We should be receiving them next week, supposedly. Um, First, if you're checking out this recording in arrears, thanks for checking it out. Hit subscribe if you want more stuff like it, or you think I might do something, noteworthy or funny or something. And just thanks, anyways. I'm recording this on the HAPS platform, the HAPS app, and also simultaneously it's going through the YouTube. And I'm taking a little trip down to Dana Point. I just need to get out and clear my head. Maybe grab a little something to drink or eat along the way. And I was thinking about this recall notices coming out. And without getting into all of the political, why the hell would we have a recall like a few months before an election starts? Because next year is an election year. And that all has to do with the way that California law is written to allow recalls in case people want to do stuff. And some kind of, Republicans can't get voted in our office these days, so they want to change things so that they can elect themselves in, like on these weird special elections where people get confused by the rules and apathy is real high. Turnout is real low because you have to open a piece of mail, which I rarely do, by the way. I hardly ever open mail. I'm not interested in it. And so I had to go out of my way to remember to look for it and open it and go through it. And then I was reading up on it, and the rule, it's just not right, and started looking at the rules, and someone else, a Twitter post someone made got me to thinking about it. And it's going to be confusing when you get it. First of all, what do you do with it? If you don't return it, what happens? Well, then it doesn't get counted, and only the ones that get returned get counted. And so by not returning it, you don't get counted. And thus, if a majority, that's 50% plus one probably, of people who return them, if those are from people who want to vote yes, we want a recall, then there will be a recall. Now, here's the tricky part. The recall candidates are also on the same piece of paper we get. So there's two questions on this piece of paper that we're going to be mailed, okay? Or these pieces of paper, I'm not sure of the format. But we're going to get an envelope, and it's going to have a piece, a recall questionnaire, and there's two questions. And we can answer them both, or we can answer only one if we want. And if we answer, and they don't depend on one another. So if the first thing, with the first question, which is, do you support a recall for the governor? If you say no there, you can still answer the second question, which is, which person out of these list of people do you choose? And the current governor, Governor Newsome, will not be on that list, because in a recall, you don't put the person that you're recalling back on the list again. So this is why this is kind of a, in an apathy area where people aren't returning these things, except for the people that are excited. And I know in Orange County, the Republicans are excited because we've replaced almost every Republican in every level of lawmakers in D.C. in recent years. So they're and it's happening, in many places in the state. We haven't always been Democratic governors and stuff, right? I mean, Ronald Reagan or Arnold Schwarzenegger came from our place, right? So I digress. Let's go back to this questionnaire. There's two questions. The first one is, do you support recall? And you can answer it yes or no. By not returning the thing, we're presuming that more people who are going to take their time to return it are the ones who are thinking yes, or who have been hearing whatever they hear in their social bubble, or their quote media bubble of wherever they get their information, the internet or whatever. So by not returning it, you're not playing. If you say no on question number one, you should still answer question number two, because by saying no to question number one, that doesn't throw away your ballot, your whatever this thing is called, the recall initiative paperwork. You're not, by answering no, you don't want to recall, that's not saying, so forget about my voice, because you still have the voice. Question number 2 is basically to be read as, if I'm wrong and there are more votes saying yes on question number 1 and I'm overridden, then my choice for the governor to replace Governor Newsom would be, and then you pick one of those, like I guess it's 18 people. So that's the first half of it. Now the second half is, if the returns that come back to them, if more than 50% say yes to question number 1, then it's a recall. And then they'll just go onto that list, and it's got to be one of those people from that list that gets picked. And it's the person that has the most votes on that list. I don't think it has to be by any percentage. So the person who gets one more vote from everyone else on that list is the person that's going to be the next governor for a few months. And Larry Elder is a big libertarian radio host down here who's was looking pretty strong. Although yesterday I read a story that he misrepresented himself in his financial paperwork, and there may be a problem with someone who is on the right wacko side of the political scale filing incorrect financial paperwork. Case suppressa there, right? So you got it with the deal with this piece of paper here. I'm gonna look. I don't think anyone's joined in, but you're welcome to comment. I'm driving, so I'm not going to be able to really check comments or respond to your comments. I will comment back. If you leave a comment, I'll read it and comment back again. Or if I come to, I'll be off the highway in 5 minutes, and we'll be able to interact. I just want to say that to anyone that I see there is one viewer right now. So cool, welcome. So yeah, I'm just talking about the paperwork that we're going to get in the mail in California, and whether we wanted this or not, it was just paid for by dark money. A lot of people paid for this recall to happen. That's how it happened in California. There don't have to be a bunch of pissed off Californians who are mad at the governor who want him to be recalled. That's not how California recalls work. There just have to be enough people who have a lot of money who pay for signatures and to file all the right paperwork and what have you to be able to get a recall. It's a money and signature thing. So, so know that. And the way it's done is really funky. But, I'll reiterate again, go over really quickly. We're going to get a piece of paper in the mail. It's an envelope, and in there it's going to be 2 questions. The first one's going to be, do you support a recall? These questions are not either or. You should answer both. Even if you don't support the recall, you should answer question number 2 also. So question number 1 is, do you support the recall? And if you say no, you should send it in and say no. And if you don't send it in, that's a nothing. They're not going to assume that you do or do not support it. They're just not going to count you as anything. They're only going to count the votes they get. And if there are more yeses than nos, and they decide there is a recall, then they're going to look at your sheet too, at everybody's sheet that responded, and they're going to look at question number 2, and then they're going to add all of those up. And so your vote there does count. Even if you said no, you don't support the recall, still your question number 2 vote will be counted. So pick someone, and it can't be Newsom. Apparently the person out of these like 18 or 19 people that are on there can't be the governor that's there, because it's presumed, if you're doing a recall, that everybody hates this governor and that he shouldn't be allowed to be the person that is recalled. That is California law specific, not Gavin Newsom specific. And yeah, you've seen recalls here under every governor the last few times, because big money wants to spend big dark political money in places. They love to do it in California, and it's just nuts, But there's my political spin on it. I'm coming close to to my off ramp. I think I got 2 more off ramps to come. Glance down and see if I can see any messages here. I can't do it. It's just not right to read my comments while I'm driving, is it? Feel free to leave a comment. I'm literally 2 off ramps from the place I'll be able to to read them. If you have any questions about the recall thing, I think I covered the main stuff, but it's pretty specific, and you can go to the California Secretary of State website, which I think is casos.gov, but that's probably not it. And you can go there and post that. Unpost it. Look at what they have to say. There's a bunch of rules, and it's interesting. It's not really easy. It's been thought out, and there's aspects. There's nuances kind of to this thing, and it's a numbers game. So they're only going to count these ballots that get returned. So it's important to let people in your life know that they should. What I'm telling you now, that they need to pay attention to this thing. They need to open it, and that they need to answer both questions. The questions don't stack. Just because you say you don't want an election in question number 1 doesn't mean that you don't get a voice in saying who gets picked if the jerks who are generating a recall election a few months before we're going to have a real election. The election's going to start now. So there's going to be a campaign starting now for the next governor of California. And in the meantime, we're going to have a recall election. I guess this is where I do get into my political ranting a little bit about it. In the meantime, we're going to have this expensive political crafting thing where maybe the people who paid for this recall election and paid to get the signatures will get their way, and they'll get to stick someone like Larry Elder in for a few months to really do a bunch of damage. We saw what a president who isn't well thought out can do to our country in one term. And that's only 4 years of the history of the U.S. and the 400 years that everything's been cranking along here. And one governor in California in a year can do a lot of damage, in what's usually a 4-year term. I imagine it could be anybody. But the best thing to do is to fill out your form and say, no, you do not support a recall election. That's the best thing to do if you support the way that normal democracy works in a democratic republic, right? The way that things work is you vote every 4 years or every 2 years, depending on the election and the rules of that, seat that people are running to be elected in. And then, I guess if something's really egregious, you hold a recall election. Like Gray Davis, when that guy was our governor, and sold our electric futures to the Enron. I'm exaggerating, but you get the picture. Sold all, bought all of our electricity futures, locked us into contracts at really super high, world's highest ever prices for California, which are probably the world's highest ever. But I don't know. I'm just riffing on that. I'm always happy to say when I'm riffing and when I'm speaking fact or factoid. I'm off the freeway now, and I'm coming down to Dana Point. That's where I'm heading. So I'm in a little off ramp here that's actually about half a mile long, and we'll be bumper to bumper till I get down there. So I'll be able to take a glance at any comments that people have or questions. Yeah, get real. Thank you for the comment. California's hardly America anymore. Well, it's really American. Where I can do hyperbole too, and hyperbole works in this climate, and I use it quite a bit. California is as America as any part of America. We just have this. In this particular instance or thing I'm talking about, we have this glitch in our California governor law there that with a bunch of signatures, if someone can, to get signatures, what they do, right, is they put people on street corners or out in front of your Kroger Market or Ralph's Market or something, and they have those clipboards. They say, "Can you sign this thing to save America?" And some people, a lot of people turn their nose up and ignore them, and a lot of people look toward them and start reading and go, this isn't what you're talking about, and walk away. And a lot of people will just sign it because they don't want to say no to somebody who looks like they need their help. And a lot of people will agree that it's the right thing to do, that they don't want Governor Newsom as governor, and so they sign it. And for all those reasons, and I'm sure much more, people will sign a clipboard to be signed if it's put in front of them. And so in California, you just all a company or an organization has to do is hire a bunch of people to stand out with those clipboards at the places where the kind of people who will sign something saying, sign this to make California great again. And so they stand outside of, they stand in Huntington Beach. I'm exaggerating for a well-known example of where the Orange County super right-wing center of Orange County is, in a city called Huntington Beach, California. It's a really beautiful city that's always been known as a fun party city. It's kind of hard to get to from anywhere else, even in Orange County. It's a pain to get to Huntington Beach just because there aren't any freeways near it. I mean, you can get to one little part of it, but to get down to the beach takes like 20 minutes from even the closest next place. I'm watching traffic here is why I'm craning my neck oddly, because I need to move around a little bit. I'll check if anyone's has made any more comments or anything. What I think I just decided I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at Carl's and make a quick order for something to drink while I'm down at Dana Point Jetty, which is where I'm going. I'm going to stop at Dana Point Jetty in maybe 5 minutes, and I'll be able to do some live interacting at that point. If anybody, as if there's a slew of people out there just chomping at the bit to interact lively. What? So yeah, now I was in a rant kind of about the California. I did get into the political side of things about the California recall process, and just pointing out that it's a matter of collecting signatures and paying people to get signatures. And if everyone loves the governor, it doesn't, you're not going to be able to get the signatures, I guess. And Newsom, I mean, he's got stuff that upsets people for sure. And I'm not going to get into my personal feelings about him, which aren't strong one way or the other, to be honest. I'm going to order something to drink.
Hello, Carolina, what can I have setting for you?
Hi, can you get me a kid's hamburger and a medium root beer, please?
Kids meals hamburger?
Just a kid's hamburger, please.
Okay.
And a medium root beer.
Okay, kids hamburger and medium root beer.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Any cookies you say today?
Just a hamburger and root beer, please.
Okay, thank you. So that's $4.94.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So, yeah, let me cover the paperwork angle again. The main thing, because I'm going to do that every few minutes through this, is cover what we're going to get in the mail. And what we're going to get in the mail is an envelope that's going to have some kind of paperwork inside that's going to ask you 2 questions. The 2 questions are independent. You should answer both. Because if the first question carries, in other words, the first question is, do you want there to be a recall? And if enough people answer to say yes, then the second question applies. And even if you say no, you don't want there to be a recall, it doesn't matter. I mean, if there are more yeses, then the recall is going to happen. Then they still count your original no thing, and they look to your second answer, which is which of these, and it's going to give us a list. And I think it's 19 people are going to be on that list. And the current governor, Newsom, is not going to be on that list. And that's because the presumption, the way it's written, is... Hi, thank you. And the way it's written is the presumption is that since enough people signed the ballot initiative thing, signed to create this recall, then certainly you don't want to put the same governor guy back in office again, so his name can't be on there. So that's an important aspect of it, is that, thank you, you need to know that you are not going to have the option of choosing Gavin Newsom again. that's just not going to be one of the choices that we're going to have. So I think that covers, it's what, about a 1 minute, 2 minute synopsis, nutshell of what. Thank you. You too. It's a 1 or 2 minute synopsis of what the uh, the process is going to be like. So, in our lives when it hits us, and that's going to be this week apparently, or maybe this week and next week. With Joy still running the post office, who knows when it'll actually arrive and be in our mailbox, but presumably it'll be here. It'll arrive this next week, and it's going to ask you the two questions. It's going to ask you if you support a recall. You answer yes or no, and whether you answer yes or no, it's still your second question is going to apply. You're going to have an opportunity to give your voice in who the new governor will be for the next few months if the answer to question number one is predominantly answered yes. Those are the basics that we need to know. And so you need to send it in. If you're a no, you have to send it in. They're not going to presume that there's a bunch of people that want yes or no. They're not. It just doesn't work that way. They're only going to count the ones that are returned. So everyone who thinks that this is ridiculous or crazy or stupid and expensive or a ploy to get some libertarian wedged in for long enough to really screw with pretty much everything the way that our state is done, and libertarian, they're going to break contract. They don't. The only thing that my personal experience with libertarians is the only thing that matters to a libertarian is the specific thing at hand that matters to them at that moment, and they're able to them or affect them in the way that matters to them. So everything else is just noise. For instance, if gas tax is your gig, when someone comes to a libertarian who and says, "Hey, we just elected Katie Porter as our representative in DC. We finally got rid of that clown Republican who moved out of our district in California, District 45. We finally got rid of that person and voted in Katie Porter, and she's a consumer advocate, a lawyer from UCI. She's going to be awesome." And the libertarian turns to you and says, "What's she doing to lower my gas taxes?" Well, that's my experience with how a libertarian thinks about the world, right? Is that I just, this person's background is in consumer advocacy, was a Elizabeth Warren protege. We all know who she is now, but at the time, only those of us who worked to elect her knew who she was and what she could do. But the reaction was, how is that going to lower my gas taxes? Now, the gas taxes in California are really high, and that's because there's a lot of California gas taxes, right? There's $2 a gallon or $3 a gallon. Crazy, way more than $1 a gallon of gas taxes. I think it's way more than $2. So that's California taxes, and Katie Porter doesn't represent, she doesn't work in the California state legislature. She works in the federal legislature in D.C., and they don't work on California state taxes. So when a libertarian turns to you and says, turns to me and says, is she gonna work on lowering my gas taxes? Well, it's nonlinear. It doesn't make sense, and so. And I don't mean to be trashing libertarians. I'm just talking about how libertarians seem to think. That's why people, you see a large number of people who self-identify as libertarian in like these militia groups, and because they care about the Second Amendment and their right to carry whatever kind of gun they want, and that's what they believe in. And in their world, and so I have to accept that that's the way it is, right? That the libertarian mindset is you just don't pay any attention to the stuff that doesn't directly affect your narrow subject of interest, and it works for them. It's very effective. The problem is that it's kind of the opposite side of the coin of let's look at what's the best decision to make in the best interest of everybody. It's kind of really the totally opposite thing from that. I didn't know this about libertarians until I kind of got closer to people that identify that way, and until during the Trump's presidency, some of the worst people groups, also the anti-maskers, those tend to be libertarian-leaning people or people who identify as libertarian. It's my freedom to be free, my freedom. It's my choice to be free, and it doesn't matter that when I make a choice not to wear a mask and not to get vaccinated, that I'm actually harming other people more than myself. Sure, I might get COVID and die, but in the meantime, I'm going to transmit it or pass it from person to person, or and people under 12 can't even get vaccinated. So right now, I'm going to diverge a little bit for a second and go on a little bit of rant about this. So COVID starts, people start dying, old people are dying, and the establishment administration saying, oh, let them die, they're old, we need to keep the economy going. And kids weren't getting sick of dying, and they were saying that kids are fine, schools should keep going. Well, in the interest of keeping kids from spreading the disease, we shut down the schools and changed the entire social environment of all of the children in all of the schools for like 18 months, right? And that's so that kids didn't carry it around, didn't pass it. Now, they weren't getting sick and dying so much. They were, but not so much, as Delta especially. They were, but they were passing it among their other older parents and grandparents and getting them sick. So in order to keep them from doing that, we pulled them out of their society and shut down schools. Well, now we're at another end of it. Right? Now here's where I'm going to blow your minds, maybe. Here we are at another end of it, and now people are screaming that the kids should go back to school. Kids are not vaccinatable up to 12 years old. The kids should go back to school, and they won't wear masks or vaccinate so that kids can safely go back to school, so that their kids don't bring home things and get it from them and take it back to school without masks and pass it to other kids. So the same people who all the kids were pulled out of school for 18 months to support and help now refuse to do what needs to be done in order to support these kids who they say they want to go back to school, but they won't put on the masks and vaccinate so that the kids can safely be back in school. Right? Am I crazy? I just parked, by the way. I'm down at Dana Point. I'm under a tree that probably has herons, so my car with the new paint is probably going to get lots of turds on it. But it's Saturday morning, and it's amazing that I just found a parking spot right here in Dana Point Harbor. Here, I'll show you. Let's spin this guy. I don't want to turn off my microphone. I just want to turn the camera around. So here's the view. It's pretty nice. That's the entrance to the harbor. The guy in the blue paddle boat there, he's coming in from the ocean and entering the harbor. And that white boat with the little flag on it is heading out of the harbor into the ocean. And all those sailboats that you see out there in the background are out in the ocean. Let's turn this back around, shall we? You probably would rather look out there. I wouldn't blame you. That's all you got to do is say so. Okay, so I'm parked and everything. I could answer questions if anyone has about this recall process, or about the envelope you're going to get, or about anything in general that has to do around this whole subject. Wow, have I been going on for 30 minutes so far? If I'm reading this properly? Well, I can go on and on, can't I? Okay, I think I'm going to close it out with one more time, unless anyone has any questions or comments or about this or anything like it. I'm going to go over the process one more time. about these recall notices we're going to get. If you're a California resident, oh, I didn't say this before, and as part of it, you can't. They won't forward it. They won't forward this piece of mail they're going to send us. So I'm going to reiterate that, maybe even in the title of this broadcast podcast stream thing. They won't forward it. So if your mail is going to one address in California and you're temporarily living somewhere else, in state or out of state, it won't get forwarded to your new address. So if you're living out of California or whatever situation it is that puts you where you're not going to be at that address or be able to get this recall ballot at that address next week or whenever it shows up, and you expect it just to come forwarded automatically to your new address or your temporary place, it ain't going to happen. You should go in now to the Secretary of State's website and change your address to the new address so that you can get it, or get it forwarded, get your hands on it. But when it ends up at this address, if they don't keep it, or if the post office automatically has a forwarding thing for you, it ain't going to get forwarded. So you need to go onto the California Secretary of State website and figure out what to do for yourself, because I'm sure you can still participate, but you're going to need to proactively figure out how. That's really big. I wish I would have said that earlier on. I knew there was something I was forgetting. If you go back to the beginning of this stream and look at the first time I talked about this, I said there's something else, but I just kind of blew past it. Okay, so other than that, here's how it goes. We're going to get an envelope in the mail, and it's going to have some paperwork in it. We're going to have 2 questions to answer, and you need to answer both. Please do answer them and return the thing to the state. That's the first thing that's really critical that you do, and that everyone who thinks that either this is ridiculous, waste of time and money, or it's a political ploy, or even if they think it's a good idea, or if they've been having second thoughts about Gavin Newsom, but they don't like any of the people on the list that's going to be on this in this email in this envelope also, then make sure they say no and send it back. If people don't like it, don't want it to happen, but they don't say no and send it back, they're not doing anything, because the only things that are going to count are the ones they get returned. So people in this kind of a recall thing the people that return them tend to be the motivated ones. And right now in California, the people that are more motivated to change our leadership at all levels are Republicans, because we replaced most of them with Democrats in the last couple of cycles. So they're fighting like hell. So people who are still of that, I'm a Republican, and so I'm always going to vote Republican no matter what. And I think that there should only be Republicans in office. There are a lot of people who were not swayed in any way against still voting all Republican, who are not swayed in any way by what has happened over the last 5 years. And there are a lot more, or a lot fewer, I guess, but still a lot, who are really excited about how things have been going, and they want to change all of California to be like that. So it's important for us to be excited about the no's. Okay, back to the nuts and bolts and nitty-gritty of this thing. There's going to be 2 questions. The first one's going to be, do you want a recall to happen? And there you write no. Even if you don't want it to happen, you have to answer question number 2, right? I mean, you don't have to, but you really have to. Question number 2 is, which one of these candidates, and it's going to list, I think, 18 of them, and you have to pick one of them. And none of them are going to be Gavin Newsom. You're not going to be able to pick Gavin Newsom again, because the way the law is written is such that they presume, and this is done on purpose, that since they got enough signatures to recall the governor, and then enough people said, are going to say yes, presumably they got enough signatures, so now the same guy certainly isn't going to be on the same list again, right? And so they don't put him there. And so he's not allowed to be there. So you're not going to have a choice of Gavin Newsom on this question number 2. But you got to pick somebody, and please do, because in case the yeses carry it, they're still going to go back and they're going to look at your no vote, but they're still going to see who you wanted, and they're going to count that. And then the person that gets one more vote than everyone else is going to be the next governor for the next few months, right? For like less than 1 year, for 1 year or less. I don't know. I don't think it happens like the next day, but it'll happen shortly thereafter. And we're campaigning for the 2022 election starts tomorrow or whatever, so this is silly. So you got to return it, you got to say no, and you got to pick someone, and you got to do those three things, and you got to tell everyone that it's not, that they got to do the same thing. So pass it along. Pass the word along, please. Thanks for checking out the broadcast. Hope you enjoyed it, and hit subscribe, please, for more stuff like it.